Chippa United announced last week that Kwanele Kopo was being moved on. Well, his contract finished, and they tried to renegotiate with him, and it didn't work out. He didn't want to come back. He's leaving to go do something different, yada, 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 all of that stuff. But what stood out for me is that it doesn't make sense to give your coach a contract that ends mid-season. And I think it shows a little bit of a lack of trust in the hires that they'd made, in the people they'd brought in. Now, they've announced that Coach Thabo September, who came in with Kwanele Kopo, Coach Kwanele Kopo, will be taking over. His assistant is going to be Buti Khanyeza. That's how the club is going to be run going forward. And what's interesting is that this is a Chippa that's sitting number 9, yes. But I think Kwanele Kopo had shown early in the season that they can play. Even last season, end of last season, I remember the Chiefs game where Chippa outplayed the Chiefs. And now you sit with a situation where the club, because they didn't trust him and giving him a proper contract, they have to now scramble to do something different middle of the season. And I think what I want to speak about is the culture of South African football when it comes to coaches and their contracts. Guys, Atazwani and Coach Fusmuzi Vilagazi, their contracts end at the end of the season. That means they've been given 8 months. How many times have we seen coaches that are given a year, that are given up until the end of the season, and the contract finishes? Because what that says to me is that, number one, you didn't trust your hire. Ke motho o tshwereng umbrella. Ke motho o tshwereng umbrella who's waiting for your actual hire that's going to come in. So number one, you've come in and you've put a guy there so that you can just, for the next 6 months, not necessarily, you don't even care that much about getting great results. You care more about saying things like, oh, we have hired young South African coaches because we're committed to the development of South African football. What can you do in 6 months? What can you do in a season? You're not going to give them a transfer window because, like I said earlier, imagine giving a coach a transfer window who you know is going to be out of a contract in the next 6 months, in the next 8 months. So they're basically cooking with what you've given them. So there's one. Number two, can you imagine the different stakeholders that understand this? Why should a chairman take you seriously if you're going to be here for a couple of months? Why should a technical team take you seriously if you're going to be here for a couple of months? Why should the players take you seriously when they know that the countdown clock has started? Because another problem with these contracts is that these coaches are not given the backing or even the power to be able to do certain things. And that plays out on the pitch and everybody blames them, they leave. But what really gets to me about these contract situations is you're not going to find a European coach getting given that contract or accepting that contract. Abo Rivero, Abo Hibala, Abo Cardoso, Abo Jose Rivero come into their clubs knowing that I have time to put together my mission. I have time to understand my role. To the point where with Jose Rivero, the technical director was fired. Not to Prasten, I'm forgetting his name, but the technical director was moved on to allow him to execute that vision that I trust you to go and do it. Of course, Nabi, the reason why he's speaking like this right now about players, about asking for this, is because he knows that it's very hard to move him on. The club has to think very hard. But if you look at Abo CM, who has moved along so swiftly after qualifying a team to go into Africa, moved along so swiftly, brought back so swiftly. You look at about 10-10s, how they get moved around a lot. What are you going to build in a year, in 6 months, in 8 months? What are you going to do in that time? Now, there's pros and cons. I'm not going to lie to you, so that we can have a full conversation. There's pros and cons. For the team, a pro is that, like I said, I can move a coach on as quickly as I want. Hey, you're not serving me, I'm moving you on. Sorry to interrupt the video that I'm sure you're enjoying, but I just wanted to say thank you for all of the support that you guys have shown me and my Overthinking Football platform. I'm a one-man band that's doing all of this, and I really do enjoy the comments about how, you know, Supersport needs to come fetch me and SABC and all of that stuff. And I think it speaks to the quality of the content, but also the amount of effort that I put in. So I just wanted to say thank you. But the truth is that Abo Supersport and all of those guys, yes, we're competing with them, but it's a completely different place. The sponsors are looking for former players, and to be honest with you, running some of these things is getting so difficult, and things have changed at home. So financially, it's a whole different world. So I wanted to try something new and come to the overthinkers, the people who watch the content, and say it would be incredible if you guys could contribute monthly towards the platform, towards keeping my lights on, but also making sure that all of the crazy things that I want to do, that I want to take Supersport on with, I can actually do. And just for 20 Rand every month, I think that would be an incredible contribution if you can make it. It may sound like a little, but if we can get a lot of people behind it, then we'll be able to carry on doing what I do. I'll be able to carry on giving you the content and also expanding it, because we don't have shows like this, and us content creators need help from our audiences. So I just came here to ask you if you can. Here is the account number that you guys can use in order to contribute. And I think, yeah, I'd be very grateful if you would. But anyway, let's get back to the video. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'm not tied to giving that coach so much because they're going to be gone anyway. Or I'm even planning to move them on. I know most of the clubs have that in their mind already, that they're going to be moving the coaches on. But what are the cons? I think the cons are that, you know, sometimes you need long-term planning. Sometimes you need to do your work, think about it, do your research, find a coach that you're going to keep for 2-3 years. Somebody that's going to be able to shape then your structure, shape your play, shape your players. Somebody that's going to be with some of those players for 2-3 years. That can only be a plus in my eyes. Obviously, you put pressure with some things that they need to do, but that can only be good for a club. Because what's the alternative? Look at Chippa. Gavin Hunt has been there. Gavin plays different football to Dan Malisela, who plays football to Dane Clate, who plays football different to Morgan Mamila. Now the club is all over the place. The club doesn't have a structure, and we've seen with our owners that Nabo, they don't care too much about these things. And if you want your club to do well, you have to have a structure. Look at the teams that are doing extremely well. Mamelodi Sundowns up to this year has had the same coaching core since 2012. Yeah, Pitso left, but the guys that were with him were there. You think about Stellenbosch that's doing well. They've had, how long has Clive Barker been there? He's had over 250 games with that team, with his assistant coach Wesley, with his other assistant who's also DDC head coach Van. You look at Orlando Pirates. Yes, Jose Rivero's new, but everybody here knows exactly how Pirates plays. And Uprasten had been that voice for so long that they kept a line. Think about it. How different is Lodge from Mufukeng? Abo Vincent Pule, how different are they? Abo Tito, how different is Tito from an Opa Manyisa in the role that he plays? For example, we know about the left and right backs bombing forward. Abo Hoto, Nabo Shandu, Nabo Munyane, Nabo Van Rooyen, who are coming in now. They have an identity, and it's easier for these coaches to come in and play versus that identity. Look at what Jose Rivero has been able to do in his 2.5 seasons at Pirates. So these clubs need to start looking that way. When you look at the coaches, a pro, I guess, would be that I get to renegotiate with this team. If I do very well, I may come into this conversation a little bit different. Kwanele Kopo maybe goes into that situation with Chippa and says, I want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Chippa says, no, I can't give you that. And he goes, well, my contract is ending anyway. I'm out. But what's a con? A con is that you don't ever get to put your foot down. You don't ever get to control and really be able to work with the players deeply, work with the team deeply, work on your structures and all of that. You're forever jumping around. Think about how much work it is to jump to another club every day. And when you get there, you have to acclimatize to the players, acclimatize to the environment, acclimatize to the structure, acclimatize to the chairman, acclimatize to the what, every single time. It stops you yourself from being able to build an identity that is not built off of struggle, fighting, relegation, fighting every day. A long-term contract allows you also to learn and to grow and to understand. I know I'm going to use this example for the lesson behind it. Not that I agree, but if you look at Hugo at Arsenal, how many years did it take him for him to be fine and get it? Oh, and in that time you needed to stand by him. And again, it mustn't be devoid of results, but you get to grow and change. But if every day you are when are you going to put your roots down? And I'd like to urge the representatives to really fight for these coaches. Fight, man. It's your client. Look out for your client's well-being. Make sure that they are treated correctly. Make sure that they have a chance to make themselves into something bigger, because long-term wise, that could be very beneficial for agents financially too. To the teams, you have so much trust for these foreign coaches. And I don't want to make it a foreigner conversation about, hey, they do this, they do that. You have so much trust off of the bat, regardless of what they've done in the past, regardless of what they're doing for the club currently. Why don't you extend the same to the coaches that are doing very well? Coach Kwanele Kopo started the season on fire. He ended that season playing such great football. And maybe he also needed to go through a time where there's a little bit of a dip so that he could learn other things and then take it from there. But you can't keep doing these things, man. A contract that ends in the middle of the season makes no sense to me, honestly speaking. Even if you signed him halfway through last season, surely you make the contract 18 months then, at the very least. So yeah, hopefully the teams get right. A big test for teams getting right is the transfer window, guys.